Welcome back to Human to Human. Today I'm doing an episode all about stress release. I've been thinking about this topic so much lately. I have found that I've been really stressed, but I think, daily life is stressful. Having lots of things on your to-do list is stressful. We always have so many things on the go. And so I just started to kind of think about all these different things that really help me when I'm trying to relieve my own stress. And so then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, I really, really want to make a podcast episode about this. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, all about the different coping mechanisms and tactics and things you can put into your toolbox that can really help you relieve stress when you're feeling like you are about to have your head explode because there are so many things that you feel like you need to get done and you just can't get them all done in the time you feel like you need to. So let's get started. Before I begin, I want to just thank everybody for listening. I really, really appreciate anyone who takes the time to sit and listen to an episode or two, let alone all of them. Thank you, Mom, for being the one who always listens to them all. But it genuinely just means so much to me if you could take the time to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, rate, and leave a review for the podcast. That is so, so helpful. It will help, me get a little bit more up in the rankings and maybe one day be able to make this podcast an actual super big thing. So thank you. And I just wanted to say that before we got into what I'm going to chat about today. So the first thing I want to discuss is something that I really dove into with my therapist. I definitely have talked to her quite a bit about how stressed I feel a lot of the time and how I just feel like there's so much on my plate. I juggle school and creating the podcast along with work and just personal things, and right now I'm living on my own, so I need to grocery shop, cook for myself, clean, laundry, all of those basic human things. So it's just sometimes it feels super, super overwhelming and like there's just so much on the list of things to do. So I talked to my therapist about this, and she gave me two really great tactical pieces of advice. One of them is I'm always a to-do list maker. I make super long to-do lists, and I will always have everything written down, or else if it sits in my brain, I feel like I can't function and I will always forget something. While I said this, I was literally thinking, what's on my to-do list? Is there more things I need to get done? Because that's just like the mindset I feel like I have. But when I talked to her about this, she was like, it's super good to write everything down on your to-do list, put it all out there, like get it out of your head. That's a really healthy thing to do. But in terms of day-to-day living, when you sit down and you look at everything on your to-do list, it is so overwhelming to see 5, 10, 15, whatever, your huge amount of things to do. It's so daunting. And when you cross one thing or two things off the list, it makes you feel like you still have so much to go and you haven't progressed in any sort of way. So her advice is at the beginning of each day to just have 3 things on your to-do list of what you're going to accomplish that day. So you might end up doing more, but when you only put 3 things on your to-do list, I was able to cross them off so much quicker and feel so much more accomplished. And it actually is motivating to keep going and to keep working. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I got some actual progress done of this huge, big, daunting list. So putting 3 things on your to-do list, and sometimes you'll end up getting them done before 10 a.m. or sometimes it'll be your actual entire day of things you do. But I definitely have found that tactic to be helpful, and I need to implement it even more into my day-to-day life. So another really, really great thing is more of just like a mantra that I just repeat to myself when I'm feeling super, super overwhelmed and like I have so much to do and I'm never going to get any of it done. And that mantra to me is saying to myself, it'll get done. It always gets done. I know myself. I know when I'm working on things on my to-do list, I know the most important things will always get done. I know the assignments will get done. I know the podcast episodes will get done and come out on the right date. But sometimes I forget that and my brain just feels like it's going to literally explode and I won't be able to accomplish everything that I need to. So I have repeated to myself lots of times, it'll get done. It always gets done. And I find that to be so, so helpful. So then those are kind of tactics of how I usually deal with my to-do list, but there's other things I definitely want to talk about in terms of taking breaks and not feeling like you're constantly doing work, because when you sit down and think, oh my God, okay, I'm going to work on my entire to-do list for the entire day, that's daunting and you won't be able to get everything done. So for me, I definitely like to take breaks. It's so important to take breaks, and I have a bunch of different things that I just like to include throughout my day that definitely make me feel better. I never do all of these in one day. I usually pick bits and pieces, and there's some things that I do more consistently, but I do find all of these things pretty helpful. One of the things is definitely meditating. I go in and out of meditating more regularly and sometimes less regularly, but I find it is so good for my mental health. It clears my head, it calms me down, it definitely gives me clarity on what I want to do with the rest of my day. It helps me remember things that I might have otherwise forgotten. It helps me really get some creativity going, and it's a great way to reset. And I think it's really important to meditate too, because sometimes the only quiet time I give my brain is falling asleep before bed. And that's not healthy, because think about how many things probably come up in your brain if you haven't given it any time to rest throughout your entire day. So I really feel like I need to re-implement that into my everyday. Like I said, sometimes I am very consistent and sometimes I'm not, but meditating is definitely super helpful. And like, it's important not to be like, okay, this is my meditation, I'm going to spend exactly 5 minutes doing it. And just sometimes it means moments of silence and going to sit outside in your backyard and just feel the sun on your face, or lay in your bed without your phone next to you and just breathe for a couple breaths. It doesn't have to be strict and rigid and at a certain time in the day, because I feel like putting those restrictions on ourselves is not very helpful. So that's definitely one thing that's great for me that I feel like is very, very helpful. Another thing is reading. I feel like I'm starting with the things that I actually don't do very consistently, but I try to read before bed every single night. I find that it definitely helps slow my brain down. It makes me feel tired, and being on your phone or your computer right before bed is not good for your eyes. It makes your brain really awake and focused. Apparently listening to music also does that too. I've heard from my brother. I don't know for sure if this is true. I really like listening to music before bed sometimes, but I don't do it that regularly. But reading for sure is definitely something that just slows me down so much and relieves a lot of stress, especially if it's a book that I love so much. I haven't found one recently that I have been super, super into since Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Love that book so much. But definitely reading, even throughout the day, is a wonderful thing to do for your mental health. So more on the active side of things, I definitely go for walks pretty often. I love walking to the ocean. Right now, being in Vancouver, it's my absolute favorite thing to do. It's about a 10-15 minute walk, and when I was living in downtown Toronto, I would always walk or do a little jog to Lake Ontario as well. So another really good break and a stress reliever for me is working out. So if that means going for a little jog, I definitely don't do long runs at all. I will do a jog to the lake or a jog to the ocean and a jog back, which ends up being probably 20 minutes, but not even consistent jogging the whole time. Or going to a workout class, doing yoga online, anything like that, I find relieves so much stress, just gets me out of my head, gets me away from thinking about my to-do list, which is really, really, really helpful. Another thing I wrote down is literally laughing. I have been thinking about this a lot lately, how important it is throughout your daily life to laugh and release tension that way. It is such a good, fun, encouraging, stress relieving way to enjoy yourself and think about the good parts of life. It instantly brings joy. Another thing I've heard actually from the Happiness Project that I've read, that book, is hugs instantly relieve stress. Unfortunately, I don't live with people that I currently hug because I don't know them super well, but I think hugging and laughing are huge stress relievers that could just make so much tension go away and just so much joy be filled up so quickly even. So that's definitely something I wanted to touch on. Another one, since I'm so far from home right now, calling friends and calling family makes me so happy. It's such a bright spot to my day. Usually I'll do that on a walk as well, but taking some time away from your desk, away from sitting, and having a conversation about how someone else is doing and how you're doing, and usually that can even bring about laughter, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that makes me feel so, so good. Another stress reliever I wanted to talk about was writing. I haven't been as consistent with my writing lately, but sometimes I will get these bursts of inspiration. I honestly feel them a lot even when I'm at the ocean after a jog or a walk there, and I'll just write about everything I'm feeling. Sometimes before bed is a good time too. Just to get all your thoughts out there, get all your feelings out there, those stresses, the concerns, the happy thoughts, the bad thoughts, the sad thoughts. It's just such a healthy outlet to put everything out onto the paper and out of your brain. I love writing. It is definitely something that makes me feel so, so good. And so the two last things, actually one, okay, so I'm going to talk about kind of movies and just having downtime. Personally, I find it's so much easier for me to watch Netflix and watch TV either with someone else, so we're kind of doing it as a unit and we both are relaxing and enjoying the TV and whatever we're watching on it. I find when I do it by myself, I'll end up going on my phone a lot. Stress relief does not come from going on our phone. Absolutely not. That definitely brings out stress, if anything. So that's hard. But I find watching a movie with a friend, or if I'm like overly tired and I'm watching a show that I like super love, like This Is Us, then I will really watch the whole thing without going on my phone. But for the most part, I really like having a partner to watch a movie or a show with, because then I'll stay accountable to not go on my phone and really pay attention and get the most out of it. Okay, and then these two last things about stress relief are a bit different. One of them is, I think smoking weed is something in moderation that can be a good stress reliever. It's not healthy to do all the time, in my opinion. It also doesn't work for everybody. It is definitely something that makes people feel anxious or just a feeling they don't love. Personally, I find just smoking a bit just calms me down a ton, especially before bed. I love to do it to have a snack or just to go to sleep. I try not to do it super often, but it is definitely a great way for me to be able to relieve stress pretty quickly and just feel very comfortable, feel very happy, feel very relaxed, and really enjoy some good food. And I do like to smoke a little bit if I'm going to watch a show sometimes as well. So that's something personally that I do for stress relief once in a while. All the other tactics are very healthy and very good for you. This one is a bit of a dangerous one, I would say, in some sorts. Obviously, it's different than alcohol, but it can be addictive, I think, in the way it makes you feel. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that. And the last thing, sorry, Mom, but this is something that even Felicia and I chatted about in our podcast, but masturbation. This is something that relieves stress so well. It is very healthy and very normal and very natural, and it's way too taboo. I don't think people talk about this enough, but I was actually thinking about this recently, about when I'm in a relationship, the amount of intercourse I'll usually have doesn't compare at all to the amount of solo love I will give myself when I'm not in a relationship, which is crazy. We should be loving ourselves as much as others would love us. And so I think that, making yourself feel good in that way is something that should never be frowned upon, and it should be promoted. And I love how Felicia chats about this in her episode, and she created a nonprofit organization called Sex and Self, all about comprehensive sex education. And masturbation is definitely not talked about enough. It is something that is scientifically proven to be such a great stress reliever, and it's so good for you, and it's just a good way to relax and get out of your head a bit, I think, personally. So I wanted to touch on that. Sorry if it made you uncomfortable, but everybody does it, or everybody should do it, or I don't know. You know what I mean. So I think that's another really great stress reliever I wanted to discuss as well. So to go over all of these different stress relievers is my to-do list tactic: meditating, reading, working out, walking to the ocean, or just going for a regular walk, calling friends. Ooh, something I didn't really touch on but was swimming. I love swimming so much. Unfortunately, I don't have an outlet to swim in tons of places. I will swim a lot at the cottage, but swimming as well is just such a good stress reliever for me. Along with that is laughing and writing and watching a movie, smoking a bit of weed, and masturbating. If you have any other stress relievers I haven't touched upon, listening to music is another one there, but if you have some that you if you have some that you feel really benefit your life, I would seriously love to hear them. So please message me on Instagram at Jessica J. McDonald and let me know what helps you relieve stress, and I hope in some way this was helpful. I feel like for me it's really good to integrate a few of these into my daily life and not put so much pressure on myself to always feel like I have to be working all the time, because we don't. That leads to burnout, and making sure you add stress relieving activities to your daily life is a way to prevent burnout, which is so, so important. So I always try to remind myself, and I have said this to friends as well, that it'll get done. It always gets done. The world won't end if it doesn't get done either, which is an important fact that I think I forget sometimes as well. So anyway, thank you so, so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. I am posting every Tuesday and Friday. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review and a rating as well. And I will see you in the next one. Make sure you relieve some stress for yourself today. Bye.